incredible. You're going to love it. I'm actually moving to Port Huron. All right, we're getting started. I wish there was Halloween music we could play.
This mic is fantastic.
I like the mic too. Thank you. I also like to envision Evan dancing to this. Getting excited. I'm envisioning more animation than Matt and I even. Yep. Yeah. Getting ready to draw today. Dillon versus Evan today. Who can draw the better beast? Place your bets now. Who is going to draw a beast better today? Dillon or Evan? You can put them in the comments. Also, once you get here, say hi to us. Tell us who your favorite starter Pokemon is, and who you think is going to be the better drawer. So today we're doing a calling for one of our backers. Her name is Italia. She's from Brooklyn. She drew a really cool builder beast that is in sewer management. So we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about kind of what this is growing into, what we've realized Unfound Adventures is growing into. It's no longer just a comic. If you've been following us, we're going to talk about ways that you can collaborate. And then Matt's going to field some questions, or maybe just ask Evan and I some questions as we try to draw this builder beast for Italia. That being said, I love
Italia
having
doubles down on the Brooklyn rep, and she just wants everybody to know Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, East Side. She is a Biggie Smalls fan over a Tupac fan. I told her that her power is she has piercing energy. So when we have company offsites and like we start doing like the typical rah company offsites, like, hey, this is how you start visualizing your dreams. Italia's the person's like, this is dumb. I don't want to do it. I'm glad I missed this part. Like Evan would love
I have some company finally.
Evan, Italia, if you were to meet Evan, you two would hit it off.
Amidst the unbridled optimists, I finally have some company.
I feel like you're pointing fingers at two of us here, but I will pretend that I didn't hear it. He is taken, Italia. So is she, Evan. But Evan has middle school sweetheart. We just found out. That is incredible. Kudos.
Yeah, more or less.
Never heard. Matt and I were saying that Evan has never heard the phrase "we need to talk" in his life.
I mean, that's
not a single time. Never had his heart broken.
Not once in his whole life. He said we need to talk.
Believe it or not, his heart is fully intact.
Evan told us,
and he's still this way.
Evan told us before this meeting, he said, hey, we'll need to talk after. I want to talk to you guys. And Matt and I are instantly like, oh, no. So he just doesn't get how it hits us. Evan, we appreciate you. We love you. You're already going to beat me with this. So if you're tuning in, say hello. Where are you from? I love seeing people start to join these. Brooklyn, hi, pals. Hello. Look at that. What's the area code in Brooklyn? Drop the area code in Brooklyn, right? That's what people say when they introduce themselves. So we have the gang back together. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we only had two of us and a new creator in Matt Seitz. We call him Cuthbert because we don't want to have two Matts. But now we have the trio back. Now we have Evan, Dillon, and Matt back. So first and foremost, a congratulations is in order.
Yeah.
Because one of us, congratulations, Mr. Matt, Argus the Distracted. You are an engaged man. Let's see the ring. Let's see the hand. Wow, look at that.
You like it? Yep,
he's taken, ladies. How'd it go, man? Tell us a little bit about it. Be vulnerable with the people that are watching. How did it go?
This is what the people want. I know this is what Michelle wants, and she's here.
Hey, Mom.
She wants the beards, and she wants the juicy engagement stories.
Tell us the engagement stories.
Yeah, so I'll tell you from the very beginning. It goes back to 1955. Grandpa was having a walk in the woods.
Jesus.
And shut up.
Spark notes.
Shut up. Look, I learned something from Alfred Hitchcock. You could just tell a random story. So actually in the 50s, Grandpa and Grandma found this campground in Western Michigan, up in Ludington, Michigan. And just like threw out a tarp and went camping there, fell in love with this campground. It's beautiful. It actually is also the basis for this campground. The state park is the basis for where the Argus story, the origin story, is taking place. It's kind of like it's a Garden of Eden type place. It's just beautiful, spectacular Michigan dunes and best stars I've ever seen in Ludington. And my family's been camping there for ages, and so it was a really meaningful place to bring Bella. In fact, when my sister found out that we were making the trip this year, flying up from Texas, she tells her husband, "I think Matt's going to propose," and I didn't let her in on the secret, so she just knew. It's that kind of place. It's the Paris of Michigan. It's been called.
Wow.
Yeah, once. So yeah, we just hiked up this. We went for a hike, like a couple minutes outside of where I was going to do it. My my mom told my dad. Apparently, I thought she would have told him, but she told him 2 minutes beforehand because she was just certain that he was going to spoil the surprise. He was going to be too geeked out about it. And so, yeah, we climbed up this giant staircase up to this overlook on some dunes. And I think is really special to have my sister-in-law and my mom, the one taking pictures, just like to have them present for that. Like, you know, and my nieces and nephew running around. My brother told me after the fact that if I had waited another 15 seconds, there was going to be a fight that broke out amongst his kids. But it was really neat to have him there. And she said she had to think about some stuff like the guest list because she said yes.
Oh, will you marry me? Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Good for her, dude. Congratulations. Is there any power that you feel comes with being an engaged man right now, or has it not really sunk in yet?
I told Bella this too. It wasn't ever
Bella's
about
the fiance.
like getting engaged. Yeah, it wasn't about getting engaged. And so fiance is a cool term, but that's not what it was about. I'm just excited to be married to this woman.
Awesome. Yeah, because you're getting older, man. You're older than me. For those that didn't know it, Matt is older than Dillon. Dude,
Yep.
I am so happy for you, especially like getting to know you both before they came. Look at this. People are already, congratulations, Matt and Bella, from a Facebook user. Thank you for congratulating them. Hopefully that wasn't Bella that sent that, because I'm just seeing Facebook user. Getting to know you both from the beginning. Bella and I were actually friends before you and I were friends. And then her and I nerded out on fiction. And then you and I started talking about fiction. And then we had this like called
Which
it
was a betrayal from her perspective.
Yeah, but it is what it is. We called it Fundamental Bros of Fiction. And then she came in and we had to change the name, which we can't talk about. We changed the name. She came in. And then it's basically the tricycle becomes the bicycle with you guys. I get kicked out for a while. And then now seeing where you guys are at now, it's just incredible. Do you know when the big day is? Someone wants to know.
Yeah, we got that question about 30 seconds after the proposal.
It always
And
seems to
just
be
keeps
that. Like,
coming.
it's just like, I just knew it as soon as I proposed to you when we get married. When's the big day?
Don't know. I'm advocating for next week, but I think we're gonna draw it out a little bit.
Wow, very, very nice. I will be the ring bearer for this wedding, if anyone was curious. He doesn't know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The ring bearer.
That's so cool, man. Evan, do you have anything that can top that? What's going on in your personal life? You're on paternity leave again. So just everyone, before you congratulate him, kid is now like 5 months old, right?
6 months as of 2 days ago.
Congratulations. Delayed paternity leave. How is it?
It's going well. It has been tough to get out of work mode, frankly, and Halloween, spooky season always comes with a lot of work as people prepare for a very active Q4 art-wise and in terms of like Halloween themed content and all kinds of stuff. So it's always a pretty busy time, and it's taken a lot of me to find the right way to step back and put the time that I really want to into things like helping my 4-year-old make a costume, and carving pumpkins, because I always carve a lot of pumpkins. And
what does she want to be?
She's going to be a mermaid against all my best efforts. She's gonna be a mermaid. Not that I have anything against mermaids, but she's like the mermaid thing is coming from some peer pressure at school. You know, I'd love it if she was a mermaid named Astrid, which is her name, but she wants to be specifically Ariel, and you know, she's 4. It's gonna be a battle.
Hey, redheaded mermaid, second best. Just saying.
Nothing wrong with wanting to be Ariel. Nothing wrong with Ariel. I love Ariel. I love everything about the Little Mermaid. In fact,
too late, canceled. We're also pro mermaid here, but there is a chance maybe she sees today's drawing, which is part mermaid in this horse / kind of mermaid / seaweed / sewer manager. She sees this and says, "Hey, can I be this instead, Dad?"
I don't think that's likely. Maybe my niece. She's really into like super weird, kooky, like Beetlejuice kind of stuff, which is awesome. And but Astrid probably not so much, but that's all right. I'll give her some time.
If you are curious into following what Evan does, because when he works with us, he does specifically like line drawings. What we're seeing right here, he has incredible watercoloring drawings, digital art. You can follow him at irrelevant-art by Evan Winston on Facebook. You see some of the stuff that he's doing for the Halloween season for Gold Mountain Games is amazing. You can also just follow him at Evan Winston. evanwinstonart.com. Let me put that in. So do us a favor, go to evanwinstonart.com and then go to irrelevant-art by Evan Winston and follow it. And once you've done that, tell us in the chat. So Evan can be like, wow, people are doing it. Support a good artist, support a good cause. Homemade custom. I agree. Homemade costumes are the best.
Absolutely.
I grew up with my grandparents and my parents, but my grandparents would always make my Halloween costumes for me. And it was like every kid was, you know, going as like Batman, and I went as the Headless Horseman. And we made the head out of paper mache. It was incredible.
So what were you advocating for Astrid for your 4-year-old to be instead of a mermaid? It's Ingrid.
It's so Astrid's the older one, Ingrid's the younger one.
Oh, got it.
Nothing in particular, honestly. I just felt like the mermaid thing was coming from there's been a rise in princess focused adoration in her daycare, and you know, nothing inherently wrong with that. I just some of the princess narratives are a bit not great. So
yeah, well, maybe
I love the Little Mermaid though. I love you know, everything about it. It was one of my favorite animated films. I got to meet and speak with one of the animators behind Ursula and a lot of the other famous Disney villains. Sweet. And so it was, you know, it's very much near and dear to my heart, and I'm fine with that. And I'm going to have to contend with the fact that she wants to literally be Ariel rather than anything else. But that's okay. That's my problem. That's my hang up.
Give it up for Evan for his own problems, huh? We're excited for you and your problems, Evan.
I got plenty of them. All right.
For with this, so everyone knows what Evan is starting to draw. I'm going to go ahead and do a little screen share here. Today we are creating a builder calling for Italia, who's here repping Brooklyn. And it is going to look, this is what she gave us. She took the quiz, which we'll put in our public Facebook group. Make sure you're following us on our Facebook group. She took the quiz. She's a builder, and specifically a maker builder. And she started like going through some of the questions in our worksheet. And instead of writing everything out, she goes, I think it'd just be better if I drew it. So she drew this, which is awesome. So it's basically part unicorn, a little fairy, a little like fairy magic with it. But also she wants to have this, I mean, it's a little bit more scary too. Piercing would be the word that I would
Tim
use.
Burton-esque.
Yeah, a little bit of Nightmare Before Halloween. What is it? What is it? A lamp? What's the fish that has this on lamp? Anglerfish. Got a little angler here. This clearly looks like a skull. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about what we're building with Unfound Adventures, what it's turning into. Unicorn, mermaid, skeleton is what she says, along with piercing energy. So everyone knows.
Bella says Evan might lose to this kid. That's a really good drawing. Should we tell Bella that
Italia is an
full-grown woman?
adult. This is an adult. Not to hurt feelings here.
I'd rather lose to a kid than an adult, frankly.
You're about to lose to me, my friend. So Evan's going to draw it, and I'm also going to draw it. Now, you're not going to be able to see as I start drawing because we figured the tech doesn't work. So you'll watch Evan. I'll be drawing over here. Matt will field questions. So if you have questions for the creative process, if you have questions about the book, what's next with the book, feel free to let us know. 28-year-old kid at heart. So if you have questions for us, feel free to ask in the chat. It's what we're here for. This is an AMA. Ask us anything. So before I get going, I want to talk about what this is turning into, right? And Matt, I'd love your additions here. Matt and I started this, and we're like, at first it started off as a book, and then Matt and I were like, what if we make this a comic? And I said, what if you want to work with me? He said no. Then he eventually came around, just like my wife. And we decided to turn this into a comic, and we started creating our story of Tales of Bestunia, and you've read the first 2 books if you're here, right? And Matt did an incredible job creating a full world with Bestunia, where people could potentially live in Bestunia, the different ways of life in Bestunia. We started thinking of the history and the timeline, and we got really big into world building. And the first reason, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, is like we just didn't want to have plot holes. We wanted to make sure we knew everything in this world and the timeline to make sure what we were saying made sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the motivation is not just in fear of a plot hole, although we do hate plot holes and just the word plot hole, and we've come up with a better phrase. But yeah, I think both of us just love creating, and as deep as possible.
We really appreciate whoever just said love what you're doing. We love you, and we love the fact that you're watching. But what we realized is when we started doing world building, this became a lot bigger than just a comic, which makes talking about it more fun. We're actually creating a collaborative space for people to tap into your own imagination, tap into your own creativity, to better understand yourself and what you have to give the world. Some people want to give their personality to this. Like Italia put part of her personality into creating her calling. So she was saying she loves the fact that she can come up with like these characteristics that kind of emulate, like understand herself more and create a character around it. Right. So that's what we're doing here. We're also creating we had someone reach out to us saying, hey, can I create a novel in this? And you guys got to meet Matt 2 weeks ago, Cuthbert, as we call him. Cuthbert came in and he's going to actually create a series of novels within the world of Bestunia. So he's taken the parameters and the frameworks we gave him for a world, and he said, can I use this to create a young adult fantasy novel? And we said, of course.
Yeah. Actually, if I may interject,
please, for the love of God.
There was a desire. Cuthbert, huge fan of Brandon Sanderson, huge fan of a lot of popular fantasy, Star Wars, all these things, and wanted to create a comprehensive fantasy story, but got hung up on how do you even begin putting together a comprehensive magic system, or other rules in this world that other cultures, other history, all these things that Dillon and I had spent basically like 2.5 years creating. And so when the opportunity was to create a novel with some set rules in a set world, with these callings, it was just like the perfect opportunity to jump in and have something whole, and be able to focus on what he really wanted to do, which was tell a story.
Yeah, it's like I think it gives people a head start and something to work within. It's like one of the things we talk about is just to tell someone, hey, think of this, and to have them try to start thinking outside the box is a lot to ask. It's like giving them a blank piece of paper and said, draw what's in your imagination. It's like, dang. But if we start to get frameworks, it'd be like, well, this is a fantasy world where people have mythical creatures that are their callings. What would your calling look like? Oh, would it be a builder? Would it be a defender? Right. So here's the magic scale, or here's the magic structure. It gives somebody like parameters to work within. So we're starting to do side novels. in the world. Matt is actually, if you want to talk a little bit, Matt's creating a origin story in the world of Estonia, which is what he's called, is actually Argus. Do you want to talk a little bit about our origin story that we're creating in the world of Estonian Unfound Adventures?
Definitely.
Coming along really good on my side, Italia, by the way. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, in Jones Calling, in the current comic books, we're at about year 293, and there's some structure that has come into the world, and so my attempt is to kind of look at on Earth, when we look at our culture, where our culture comes from, like in America, and sort of the different cultures that we've become inspired by or derived from, and trying to reverse engineer what Joan and Artie and James and the gang all experience. How do we get from a beginning where there's literally nothing, no people on this planet, potentially, to 293 years later, a fairly established society? And so I'd asked a while back on Facebook, and in these Facebook groups, we do this periodically, where like, who would like to adopt a character, or who would like to create something? And my buddy Trey, a guy I've known for a few years, volunteered. And Trey and I, for as similar as we are, we also have so many differences. And I was kind of eager to not have a character that I was projecting myself into too much, because that's just a tendency. Look at on our website, Cooper. It's Mom. It's weird. It's like I made it like my life accidentally. It's like, this is just kind of what happens when you create, is you make it like yourself accidentally. And so Trey came in and he created this character that looks like him, which is kind of like this dark skin, locks having Moses like figure, who's footloose, loves music, boisterous personality. And the origin story is kind of a retelling of Moses' story with some Greek mythology mixed in. And so soon I'm going to get the entire part 1 written, which will probably happen by the end of the year for sure. But Trey is going to actually, he's a voice actor, and he's going to start doing some voice acting, and like not just create an audio book, but create kind of like this audio experience reading through this book. But when I was like, I would love to do an audiobook, it'd be really fun. And I started reading some of the lines, just like, I'm not Argus. And I'm not an actor. So that's kind of a fun project for him. I think I saw it a year ago. He's like, if anybody's looking for any voice actors, I'm trying to work. And so it's cool for him to actually be able to not wait for those opportunities, but to actively be creating those opportunities for those.
Yeah, and I think with it too, it creates a platform for him. Right now, we're getting away from just books in general. Now we're having people that are say, "Hey, I could do some potential voice acting." And what Matt and I have talked about is creating a little Spotify account where if you guys want to hear Matt's book and Matt's creation told to you from a narrator, you have a way to follow us and kind of go through Trey's avenue of creativity. Trey, if you're hearing this, we'd love to have you, man. But we want to start having this be an open platform for people to tap into and create. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw questions in the chat. We're always here to answer questions about the creative process, about what Evan's drawing right now, about how to draw, about the world that we're building. Another potential option that's coming up, this is more from Evan, is a TTRPG model of our world. Now, if you just heard the word TTRPG and you're like, what the hell is that? That's why I'm going to bring Evan in board and to tell you what that stands for and where we've seen this in the past. Is it cool if I put you on the spot? Evan, you can stop drawing if you want, or you keep drawing, and I'll go back to drawing. It's real good on my side.
I didn't agree to this, but so TTRPG stands for tabletop role-playing game, and if that doesn't mean anything to most of you, I would encourage you to think of things like Dungeons and Dragons, which is one of many iterations of this format of storytelling and gameplay that can be characterized as tabletop role-playing. And what it really means is there is a shared universe, something like Dungeons and Dragons, which is definitely my go-to example. tells any infinite number of possibility of stories, either created by players, and their own stories, their own characters, their own worlds, or provided by the company that makes Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, in the form of these like adventure modules that provide guidance of, this is the conceit of the adventure. These are some of the events that your players can be expected to encounter on the way. These are some of the creatures and how we suggest guiding some of these, the combat in these encounters, things like that. All of that is sort of set out in terms of guidelines, and it's made possible by the fact that this world and its adventures, its stories, are all built around and based on a core set of observable mechanics, which is to say, anything from your character walks into a shop and tries to buy something, and you want to like persuade the merchant to give you a discount. Well, you roll a dice that is informed by that character's like charisma stats in order to determine the difficulty class of succeeding at persuading a merchant to give you a discount. It can be as simple as that, or it can be something more complicated, like if you're a wizard and you cast a spell at an enemy creature, all of these different mechanics can come into play to determine how that event plays out, and it happens very organically. These aren't pre-written or pre-structured stories. It's entirely possible that a table of players never reaches the end of their adventure because they fail, or some of them fail, or it pans out in an entirely unpredictable and unpredicted way. So it's a very organic and very constantly evolving form of storytelling that is different every time. And it's made possible by these mechanical rule sets that help a player and help a game master, whoever's running the table, shape these events and categorize their outcomes and like fit them into their own improvised mode of storytelling. It's very much an improv heavy skill to be able to skillfully run a table like that. And there's honestly nothing more just awe-inspiring for me than seeing and hearing a really good GM respond to and react to story events in real time, even when they're like completely outside the scope of what they might have expected could happen.
Because really, with it can be anything is possible in the realm of odds, right? So this GM being a game master, a lot of people I think look at Dungeons and Dragons as like it's for nerds, and then they do it, and they're like, that was me, and then I did it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can do and be whatever I want here within, again, parameters, and like your creativity is like you're on your toes. I actually did this at first to do something during COVID. And at the time I was selling, I was a sales rep, and I wanted to get better at thinking on my toes, not being so rote. And I started playing this game and it's like opening up my creativity. It's like, well, what if we did this? What if we did this?
It's a fantastic exercise in like organic problem solving, in escapism, in terms of like you do have to role play as somebody other than yourself. You can be a character that is essentially you, but the idea is to be different than that. And so you may come upon a situation where you would behave one way, but your character would behave a different way, and it's up to you to kind of balance and like determine how you move forward with that. So there's a lot of really interesting interplays that go on in a game, like a good, well-run game of something like D&D. And as I said, there's all kinds of TTRPG properties. There are fantasy, sword and sorcery like D&D. There are cyberpunk, steampunk, science fiction. Exactly. Young adult people have made TTRPG mechanics rule sets on things like Star Wars or Harry Potter or Redwall, just to enable people to tell original stories within these worlds and engage other players who may not be of the same caliber of storytelling as like a GM. to participate and really help co-author these organic adventures. And so it's a really fun experience when done well.
I think it's also for people that are like, let's say you wanted to do a book or you wanted to do something creative, but you don't feel naturally good at writing, but you're like, I want to speak it out, right? You have these tabletop role-playing games that you can play. I think a lot of people, when they first play, and this could be just be me, but when you first play Dungeons and Dragons, it's like the first time through, you're like, well, let me just make a character that's like me. And then they try to better understand themselves through this game. I actually friends with a play therapist, Faith, if you're listening, we love you, who's used Dungeons and Dragons to work with her clients, kids that have a little bit of mental or cognitive delays, to help them better understand themselves and what they would do in a situation. They make a character that is based off of them. The Bastunia equivalent would be, right now, if I made a defender, it's going to be mostly like me. Right now, I feel like I'm in this mode of wanting to protect my family and having a kid and be a guardian for them. I would be a defender in a tabletop role-playing game for Bastunia. But then as you start to get, more and more campaigns and hour to play again, I might want to be like, well, what would it be like if I was a really competitive builder and I just got to lose myself, and instead of being Dillon, I can be this person? And what would that be like? Giving more social awareness there, in my opinion, to be somebody else. I just think there's a lot of avenues with it. So it's something that you've brought up recently that I think, again, is another way people can tap into our world at a light level, to lose themselves and create and use their imagination. Am I missing anything there, Evan?
No, I mean, I think that about covers it. It's just, it really is a very powerful tool, especially for kids and young adults, to experience varying perspectives and force themselves into force themselves to cognitively stretch by engaging in role playing. It helps build empathy, it helps build storytelling and communication skills. I've seen the same tool adapted even to bring players who do not speak the same language together. I mean, it's been used. I've seen it used diegetically in world by a GM, where the player who only speaks Spanish is in fact speaking. They treat it as speaking Elvish, and so none of the players understand her, but the GM does and is capable of translating where appropriate. Or if it's not appropriate, the GM just doesn't translate. How do the other players deal with and respond, or how do they manage to find a way to communicate with each other without being able to rely solely on language? And so there's really fun ways to adapt all of that to real world situations and interpersonal relationships and realities. I've seen it used for a lot of really, really fun and interesting and inspiring causes.
Can you say something there, Matt?
That you were using play in this way to get better in a sales role. I think the underlying mission behind all of these projects, there's the desire to inspire, to nurture kids in their creativity and their imagination, to give them some of these skills that they can take into life, help them have more initiative, to just be more imaginative in their solutions. There's this thing I was just reading the other day. There's this scientist, her name's Karen Purvis, and through research has discovered that it takes about 400 repetitions to create a new synapse in your brain. A lot, 400, unless it's done in play, in which case it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions. So whether it be board games or crafts or puzzles or just some sort of imaginative exercise, first of all, you can see how fast kids are learning because they're often engaged in these things. And then we maybe lose them a little bit. Hopefully not. But we lose them a little bit as we get older. But it's a phenomenal way to learn.
I can't wait. I mean, if this is something that we're able to build off of, I can't wait in general, whether it's through this or D&D, to use that with my kid to help him better understand himself and to have, like Evan's talking about, that empathy for somebody else. But what we're really, and I want to talk about two other things that we're doing to create this collaborative world. But what we're really realizing is this is a collaborative space to better understand yourself and where you fit and what you have to give this world. I think when we can use our imagination, it's easier for us to tap into that, like you're saying, Matt. I'm just very excited, and I really appreciate everybody for following. And I was talking to this recently because I was speaking with a school today, and I was talking with my friend, and when you're early in the process, you just feel like you're grinding, right? It's like, man, I am grinding. I am doing, for me specifically, I'm like, I am doing a lot of reels. I am doing a lot of TikToks. I am doing a lot of, like, when is it going to hit? And my friend says, like, typically in something like this, when you're in an activation period where you're just putting work in and you really don't know when it's going to pop. But I'm having almost swore, having a butt ton of fun in this activation period because I feel the end goal is worth it. And we have a couple other ways that we're going to collaborate with some of our followers. But before that, because Evan, I think this is a good silver medal. I would love anybody here to feel free to vote because Evan seems like this is close to the end. Italia, if you're here, would love your thoughts on this. And I would love for us to figure out a name for this bad boy. But there's Evan's. And hopefully we can get mine. There's mine.
There you go.
Perfect.
Which
did you
That's
trace
one.
Italia's?
no, this is just straight from my my own imagination, and I
That's
also
the one
added.
I concede.
I don't know if you can see that, but there's a fish that's like as it sees this, right? So I went a little bit more whippy with the angler fish. You guys see that?
Yeah.
A little more thematically on point.
Yeah, and then at the bottom, I don't know if you can see that. Oops. I don't know if you can see this bad boy. There's a crab looking at this thing. Goes, oh
man.
I go, wow, it's a mermaid unicorn skeleton.
Oh, the
Can you
story
do
details.
it in sort of a Jamaican accent for us, though?
Whoa, it's a mermaid unicorn skeleton, man.
Oh, I'm uncomfortable now.
Wow.
Look at this thing, man.
Look,
Wow.
we're not voice actors. That's why we hired Trey. But
Trey
I
will
really
come in
felt
here and
like Sebastian was here with us.
Thank you, man. Who is your favorite? Go ahead and just put Dillon in the chat if your favorite is Dillon. And don't worry about what you put in the chat if your favorite's Evan. Just put Dillon in the chat. And we'll figure out whose is the best here. Italia, I will send this to you. This is deep. Yeah. Oh, dang it. You're talking about what we're building.
Just take it in.
Take it in. So I think Evan's winning. But, whoa. 1 second. I want to make sure I add here. Holy crap, this is deep. Never thought of all the behind the scenes. I'm listening to 3 grown kids have fun. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I never lose the child in you. And unfortunately, Evan has the vote of being better, apparently. Even though I never said what to say in the chat if you voted for Evan. Dang, Evan, what did you use to, like, other than the picture and what she wrote, like, what was the inspiration for you here?
I mean, again, my daughter's very into mermaids right now, and I'm actually coming off of a project where I have been having to illustrate and paint underwater monsters, whether they're like krakens or a riff on the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole avenue is actually weirdly just close to what I've been focusing on a lot lately, and so that was kind of fortuitous, I suppose.
Me
but
too.
No, there isn't a whole lot of reference here other than like horse skull anatomy. I don't know if you noticed me drawing a horse skull at the very beginning. It's because, for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that horses are actually notoriously complex to draw and have them feel naturalistic and realistic looking. There's just something about horse anatomy that is just really difficult to sell in drawing. It's a weird standout thing. It's just one of those obstacles.
Evan gets another curveball when it comes to can you do this from our followers. Thank you, Italia. So for anyone here still listening, when Italia created this, she went through quizzes to figure out what her calling would be. If you'd like those quizzes, let us know. We can drop them in our Facebook page. If you're not following our Facebook page, make sure you like it. Unfound Adventures public page. But she found out she was a builder and a maker. And then she started looking at the map that Matt has amazingly created. And she goes, oh, well, I'd want to be in Metropolia because that's where the builders are. And she asked me, she goes, Dillon, I'd like to think that my background, this calling's background was it used to be out in the ocean, the infancy, and it learned a bunch out there, and it came back to Metropolia. And I'm curious, have you guys thought of the sewer system in Metropolia yet? And I told her, Italia, we're making this book for 3rd to 8th graders. So no,
Absolutely.
we have not thought of the sewer system. And she goes, well, my calling's in charge of that. So this calling is in charge of the sewer system. And she wants to have some type of psychic ability. So that's one of the things that I think we need to figure out. So Matt, I'm going to have you kind of sit on that while I talk about a couple other areas of creation that we're doing with Unfound Adventures. But you know the abilities, and in your mind, what do you think would be the best ability for this calling and what it can do in a sewer system? As Matt thinks about that, 2 other things that are coming down the pipe for Unfound Adventures, and then Evan, if you have this picture on you, that would be great. What we had, I had one of our followers reach out to me who I would never expect this from. He is a pure defender, resolute, stout defender, doesn't even have social media, does his job, comes home, has a wife and kid, cares for his family, and that's it. Like, he's by the book. And he goes, hey man, I've been working on my kid to get him to stand, and I have a nickname for him. And I kind of have this Viking thought in mind. He's like, you should have something for your kid. And wouldn't it be cool if we created a children's book within your world? And we could teach all these young stories for kids and get your illustrator to draw them. So we down the pipe, we are working on our first children's book of Beck the Brave and Keith the Curious. So anyone that knows me, that is my baby boy on the right side. Keith the Curious, he will be the big explorer of the 2, and Beck the Brave is going to be the small but mighty of the 2. And it is going to be a children's book that walks through their adventures. So anyone here, if you want to think of Calvin and Hobbes, Evan, I loved the analogy that you made, that when parents are around, they're going to have these little pets, callings, that look like a kitten and a bird. And then they're going to go on these crazy adventures, and they're going to learn about friendship and sharing and maybe how to add. I don't know, the power of imagination. They're going to learn all these lessons, and they're going to go on these crazy adventures, and their kitten pet and their bird pet are going to turn into these immaculate callings in the world of Bastunia. So very excited. This was actually, like, to my friend who gave me this idea, this was a huge spark in creativity that I needed, because I got very much in like the builder mindset of, well, we got to do this, and then we got to do this, and we got to make sure we have this on TikTok, and being able to come back and create again for a children's book was huge. And Evan, hopefully you had some fun with it as well.
Oh yeah, I always have fun character designing in general, but especially for something like a children's book or animation.
Yeah. Especially with
fingers crossed that maybe one day there's an animated component to the studio.
Fingers crossed. If you're watching this right now and you know someone that is into taking this and putting into animation, you let us know, because again, we want this to be an outlet for creativity. And then the last big thing, and then Matt, I'll have you come in, talk about this as we wrap up. Starting to speak with schools. So I actually today, I haven't even told you guys. I spoke to a principal of an elementary school that I spoke at last year. I just spoke with a teacher last year, but now I'm speaking with the principal and the dean of students in the area about what we're doing and how we use our world to help young kids tap into the power of imagination and creativity to better understand themselves and to better accept other people, right? Because if I were to create my calling, it's going to be different than Matt's calling, and we get to talk about what our callings are and what we care about, and I get to realize that Matt's different than me. And having an opportunity to speak at this elementary school to their 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and then hopefully expand from there into other elementary schools as well. They're pretty excited of where it can go, and it jacks me up too. So if you're watching this and you have a kid in school and you'd love for them to understand more about the power of imagination and creativity, you can also reach out to us. Huge shout out to Raylene McDonald. When you watch this, like being able to put us in touch with teachers and principals like that, is you're helping us spread our message, and we really, really, really appreciate it. So a bunch of different avenues to grow with an Unfound Adventures. I'm excited. Biggest thing you guys are excited for as we grow this? Matt, you first.
Oh,
Evan, you're next.
Yeah. I'm picturing having just this whole shelf of books, this whole catalog of projects, this tons of different ways to experience this world and these ideas from everybody, in ways that we could have never even foreseen.
Evan?
Same.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Evan Winston for you. Make sure you follow relevant-Evan art by Evan Winston on Facebook. No, I just think it's really cool to see some people I'd never hear from be like, "Hey, have you thought of this?" And I'm like, "No, thank you for it. Let's make it work." Absolutely love it. So in the last 10 minutes here, let's come back to this calling, and let's talk about the world of Bastunia, specifically Metropolia. So Matt, do you want to take it from here? Tell us a little bit about Metropolia as Evan does his final edits. I'm pretty sure he's done, but
it looks great, Evan. Well done.
You're awesome.
So if you go to the website, there's some short stories, and one of the short stories is about the creation of this new city, which is Metropolia. And so in that story, this politician, more or less, this builder, establishes new village, and this is I guess it's 90 years ago in Bastunia time, and then it's grown into this. And so New Village is where she established the village, and then you kind of see it become this builder's mecca. Hence why over on the right you have Builder's Hill. It's like, let's have a bunch of the best builders create structures in all of their own unique designs. It's like when you go to a city, a lot of Western cities will borrow architecture from all around the globe. It's really cool to see if you're into that sort of thing. So that's what you see over on Builder's Hill. And you see a slightly different style in Beastport. In the proper, you have this more Eastern architecture. What I'm imagining now that Italia is planting this beast, which, Italia, if you have a name, throw out some names. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'm kind of picturing a setup similar to like in the Yucatan Peninsula, where there's all these cenotes, all these sinkholes, and then there's like an underwater or underground river system that kind of connects all of these sinkholes, or many of these sinkholes. I can almost see Italia's calling utilizing an existing underwater river system for the sewers. That'd be interesting. Horsey.
Kind of scary, kind of creative.
That was you, wasn't it?
That was me. That was me.
You're getting the juices flowing, though. If nothing else,
get the bad ideas out.
Now, let's get the bad ideas and let's bury them in other ideas. So,
Horsey.
Horsey. This would be a baby Italia, the first name that it ever got, and then she's like, "Wait a second, probably going to come up with a better name." So, as a builder maker, builder makers are generally seen as the visionaries. Less so the people that are like in the trenches actually doing the thing. Like you'd have builder supporters that would be maybe more of your laborers, the people that are making sure that the maker has everything that he or she needs. You may have a strategist that's assisting with the vision too. And then there's breakers, which you'd probably employ, especially if you're digging these out, you'd probably employ a lot of people that are just like a breaker would be like someone who can burrow and create these tunnels. So your ability, the beast ability, there's the two that came to mind: the Auric area of control, which is basically a beast ability to use its energy to control sort of this sphere, has this sphere of influence. and in this sphere, it can control things within it. If you had a psychic control over things within the sphere, that would be interesting. And I suppose you could, I don't know, give me your thoughts here too, Dylan.
I have one.
Manipulate those beings to work. But yeah, you share.
Yeah, because I think it can come across as like mind control in a sense, but like having a bunch of workers working in if you've seen a sewer system, it is a vast network, right? So the architect that can see the whole picture, but workers are working on a specific pipe or a specific line or a specific area. To have this dope beast have this area of control to kind of psychic in this area of control in its aura, to basically put that vision in other beasts' head of this is what we're creating, instead of manipulating them, but it's almost like it's plastering the picture in their head of like, hey, you're working on this part, but here is the grand scale of what we're doing. Having that, I think, would be really cool, knowing Italia, knowing what she's looking for in her calling and what she's talked to us about. What if it was like some type of psychic thing? So I wouldn't say it's mind control as much as like this.
It's kind of a hive mind almost.
Yeah, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what you're working on. Yeah, so that's what I for sure see as area of control. Did you say you had another one potentially too?
If anything,
can we zoom in here?
Yeah, sure. Internal talent could come into play, because internal talent, often if somebody has this great insight, like let's say that you're standing on the ground, or if Horsey was underneath in one of these underground rivers, maybe Horsey would be able to intuitively just understand the network in its entirety, could like map it out, would have this insight somehow. So I thought maybe that would fall into an internal talent of some kind.
Love it. Ability 1, auric control, kind of like a psychic hive mind, to tell everybody this is what we're creating. Less for manipulation, more so they understand what they're working on. And ability 2 that I'm hearing to show would be more internal talent of, did you say influence?
Insight is what I said, but I'm not sure if that's the best word to describe.
Yeah, to give them insight on what we're building. It's like, hey, this is the creative thing that we're building, and then being in this realm of auric control, which could be as vast as the sewer system itself, every worker constantly understands that vision and then what they're working towards. So insight and hive mind seem pretty sweet for this.
Very cool.
I'm coming back to it for this. Oh, nice. And there you have it.
Thing's awesome.
Really, really appreciate the time here, the work you put in, Evan. Right around Halloween, this is a pretty cool calling to make. And in 2 weeks' time, Italia is also a backer for our Kickstarter. For the next Kickstarter we launch, you too can be a backer and choose to donate to the cause, to either create a calling for yourself or to gift it to another kid. Italia, like us, kid at heart, wanted to make her own, but you might know someone to help them make a young kid, or a friend wants to create a calling. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be working with another Kickstarter backer who his child created a builder breaker for us to create. And we'll talk about his backstory, the calling's backstory as well. That's it for this week. This is incredible. I do think I probably won, but this is a very close second, Evan. Like very, very, very close. Can we get a picture, Matt? Just if you could take a screenshot, and we'll have other people vote.
Sure. Any way you can make yourself bigger. I mean, maybe that. I got it.
Yeah, good. You got it.
Yeah, I think that you might. The scale of your drawing just might count against you a little bit, but if so, that's the reason that you didn't win.
Exactly. You can't fully see what I mean, and make sure.
It's a rigged game anyway.
Yeah.
Plus,
it's a
Evan
mermaid unicorn.
He said he was okay when we came in, but so we should probably give him this win.
Okay. All right, fine. We'll let them take this. We appreciate everybody. I mean, seriously, like the fact that like people are watching to the very end of this and commenting, and it means a lot. We really, really, really do appreciate it. We're excited to keep building. We're not stopping. And if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out. Feel free to follow. Make sure you find some time to follow Irrelevant Art by Evan on Facebook, and also evanwinstonart.com. Is that the other one, Evan?
Yeah, that'll do.
evanwinstonart.com. Wait for it, and I will put that. So feel free there. We appreciate everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Have an incredible spooky holiday season, and till next time.